be seated.
They bring the jury. Very good. Cross-examination.
Thank you, please.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Agent Dewane. Is it Agent Miss?
Agent's fine.
Agent, okay. Agent Dewane, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. All right, so you just testified about a whole bunch of items. I'm going to try not to go back through everything, but I can't promise. I want to back up, though, to when you first got involved with this case. That was back in March of 2019, right?
That is correct.
And do you recall the first day that an item was submitted to you for testing?
This was on March 30th of 2019.
March 30th of 2019. Do you have all of your, I guess, supplemental reports, or do you just have the report from December and June?
I just have the latter two.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach? I just needed your report dated March 30th, 2019, correct?
That is correct.
And you had a number of supplemental reports after that, right?
That is correct.
And that's because there was a large volume of items submitted for testing and you kind of updated as you went.
That is correct.
So I think we had, what, a total of 7 or so different report installments?
I received evidence on 8 different days.
Do you have those days?
I do.
Can you tell us what they are, please?
The first date was March 30th of 2019, and then April 1st of 2019, April 3rd of 2019, April 4th of 2019, April 15th of 2019, April 18th of 2019, August 9th of 2019, and June 29th of 2021.
Thank you. Now, if you look back at your, what was submitted to you on March 30th, you were provided with 3 items to compare on that day, correct?
That is correct.
And you received a buccal swab from Ms. Josephson.
I apologize. I received 5 items.
5? Okay. One of those items was a buccal swab from Ms. Josephson.
That is correct.
Another one was a swab from a left shoe, a black and white shoe.
That is correct.
And a third one was a swab from the rear driver side interior panel.
That is correct.
And you said you received the items on the 30th and you issued your report on the 30th, correct?
That is correct.
And that request came from who? Do you recall?
I got the phone call from a SLED agent.
Do you remember which one it was?
I do not recall off the top of my head.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it common practice, or just is it common for your department to be able to turn around on testing, peer reviews, and issuing reports within a number of hours?
Yes, it depends on the number of items and the type of items.
And sometimes it takes months. Is that fair?
That is correct.
But there are times also that special requests can come from law enforcement or by order of the court to prioritize to try to get the testing done more quickly, right?
More efficiently, yes.
Yes, I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that you aren't, that your department doesn't work efficiently, but there's only so many hours in the day. If people are giving you hundreds of items to test, don't y'all receive items from all over the state?
Yes, we do.
And sometimes there can be a backlog.
Yes, that is correct.
But y'all work as quickly as you can, as efficiently as you can to try to get to each and every task as it comes in, right?
That is correct.
Now you said your the third report you issued was around April 18th.
I apologize, I do not have the dates of the reports.
You remember something?
Yes, this report is dated April 18th of 2019.
And on this report, we see for the first time that items 17 and 18 are listed, correct?
That is correct.
And again, that's April 18th of 2019.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. And we'll come back to items 17 and 18 in just a minute. But like you said, throughout the next couple of months, even years, you did the testing, you put it through the peer review, you issued your reports as efficiently as possible so you could get the reports done.
That is correct.
And when you finish your report, do you personally hand it to the investigator?
Not typically, no.
Where do you typically upload your report to?
We have an internal laboratory management system called the Beast, and that is where our reports are written and published.
And so an investigator at SLED would have access to that database?
Yes, once the report is published.
And they can access it at any time after you've published it?
Yes, that is correct.
And they would not have to contact you for any special login. They can go get it themselves.
As far as I understand, yes.
And it's not your responsibility to track down an investigator to tell them, hey, my report's finished. You submit it, you upload it, it's published, and your job there is complete, right?
That is correct.
All right, now do you have your December 5th report?
I do.
All right, so I'd like to start first just going over some things that were found and that you processed inside the vehicle. But first, you were discussing with Mr. Goldberg the different ways that DNA can be transferred from one item to another. One of those ways is just by simply touching something, right?
That is correct.
If you sneeze, you can transfer your DNA that way, if you don't cover your mouth.
Yes, that is correct.
You said blood is a very strong indicator of, a DNA transfer.
Yes.
And skin cells. I guess that would be the same thing as touch. Is that right?
What is the question?
Skin cells, transferring skin cells.
Yes.
So transfer DNA. Am I correct in saying that DNA can transfer from one item to another without the person having direct contact with that originating source? Does that make sense?
Yes, that is possible.
So, for example, if there was blood in the back of my car and I touched that blood, that DNA would transfer from that item to the person that touched it.
Yes, if the blood is wet, then yes.
And if there are other items in the car that come in contact with blood, the blood can transfer from one to the other.
Yes, that is correct.
You can also transfer DNA by, if somebody owns a sweatshirt. You wear the sweatshirt, it's safe to assume that your DNA is going to be on that sweatshirt.
Yes, it is possible that your DNA will be on that sweatshirt.
If somebody owns a car and you drive the car, it's very likely your DNA is going to be on the steering wheel.
It is possible that your DNA would be on the steering wheel.
It's possible your DNA will be on the gear shift.
Yes, that is possible.
All right, so I'd like you to look at item 3 for me, on page 4. Item 3 was one of the first things you said was given to you on March 30th.
That is correct.
And the swab was labeled from rear driver door side interior panel, correct?
That is correct.
And when you ran this sample, correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not have a known sample from Mr. Rowland at that point, right?
That is correct.
But on March 30th, the presumptive test for blood was positive.
Yes, that is correct.
And your result, it was interpreted that there was a strong likelihood that Miss Samantha Josephson was a potential contributor.
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson fell in our very strong support range.
And that was on March 30th.
Yes, that is correct.
And then on April 5th, that's when you received the known sample from Mr. Rowland, correct?
I received the known standard from Nathaniel Rowland on April 3rd of 2019.
Okay, April 3rd. But on the April 5th report that you issued, that's when you indicated that Nathaniel Rowland was excluded from that sample as a possible contributor, correct?
I can't confirm the date, but yes, I can confirm that result.
There's one.
Yes, for the report issued on April 5th of 2019, the result regarding Nathaniel Rowland for item 3 was that he was excluded as a possible contributor.
And just so we're clear, the profile that you interpreted for item 3, for item 3 originated from 2 individuals.
That is correct.
So we know Nathaniel Rowland is excluded, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You were able to exclude also everybody else that you had a known sample for, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unidentified profile mixed with Ms. Josephson's profile on that swab.
Yes, that is correct.
Now I'd like you to turn your attention to item 22. It's on page 14.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's 22.1. This item is listed as the envelope swab from stain below address window on item 22.
That is correct.
And for this particular item, you also got a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And your proposition is that there's a strong likelihood, 3.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson was a contributor?
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson as a possible contributor falls in our very strong support range.
Yes, ma'am. And that number is 3.7 septillion times more likely?
Yes.
And for this item, Nathaniel Rowland is also excluded, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you've excluded everybody else that you had no profiles for.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson mixed with an unidentified person.
Yes.
Now, if you look over on page 15 at item 22.2, it's another swab taken from this envelope, swab from the outer edges of item 22.2, correct?
That is correct.
And on this swab, we had a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And the DNA profile is approximately 42 billion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified related individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
So a very strong probability that Ms. Josephson is present.
A very strong statistic associated with her possible inclusion.
And you testified that you did you created a proposition for Mr. Rowland also.
Yes,
Mr. Rowland is not included in this mixture of 3, correct?
the result for this is the DNA profile is approximately 4 times more likely if 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture. So this DNA profile is 4 times more likely to have occurred if the second scenario where Nathaniel Rowland is not included as a contributor occurred.
Okay. It's more likely if Nathaniel Rowland is not a contributor.
That is correct.
Okay. And you came to that same conclusion for Xavier McFadden. It's more likely if he is not a contributor, correct?
That is correct.
You came to that conclusion with Dewane Williams. It's more likely that he is not a contributor.
That is correct.
You came to that conclusion as far as Maria Howard goes. She is not a contributor.
It is trending toward exclusion. Yes.
ma'am. And then under the last proposition, you have excluded Oshamar Williams and Derod Fleming, correct?
That is correct.
So with this particular swab, we have Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified people in this mixture.
That is correct.
All right, please look at item 38. I'm sorry, 38.1 is on page 18. This particular swab is a mixture of at least 5 people,
Yes, that is correct.
and you testified that anything over 4 you cannot run an analysis on.
Yes, that is correct.
And how many DNA profiles does each person have? One per person, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the same thing was for item 39.1. There were 5 profiles identified, so you could not do any more testing.
Yes, that is correct.
But we know there were 5.
Yes.
Now, item 45.1 is down at the bottom of this page. It is labeled as swabs from the right sleeve near cuff of black jacket, Robert Comstock size extra large from rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala. You were able to identify profiles on this item as well, correct?
That is correct.
And the profile is a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And Samantha Josephson's likelihood of being a contributor to this mixture is pretty strong, right?
Yes, the DNA profile is 3.7 septillion times more likely.
That it's her and another person contributing to the mixture.
That is correct.
And Nathaniel Rowland is excluded from being that second person, correct?
That is correct.
And you excluded everybody else that you had known samples for with this particular item.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson and an unidentified person that we don't know.
That is correct.
Now, on item 45.2, swabs from the upper right and lower left areas of the black jacket, same black jacket, that was found in the rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala. This profile is a mixture of 3 individuals.
That is correct.
Samantha Josephson had a very strong, it was approximately 2.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
Correct.
Than if it was
3 unidentified, yes.
And with this item, the swabs from the right and left side of this jacket, Nathaniel Rowland is excluded, right?
That is correct.
And you excluded everybody else that you had known samples for?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Samantha Josephson mixed with 2 other people that we don't know.
Yes, that's what the statistic implies.
And when we look at 45.3, that's another, the scraping from the interior neck area of the same black jacket that was found in the back seat of the car.
Yes, that is correct.
This mixture of at least 5.
Yes,
So you could not do any testing on that.
that is correct.
Can you turn to page 24, please, item 62? This is the steering wheel of the Chevy Impala, correct?
That is correct.
And this is a mixture of 3 people.
Yes,
And the first proposition that you did included Nathaniel Rowland as a possible contributor.
yes,
And it was approximately 970 billion times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
the DNA profile was approximately 970 billion times more likely if that were the case, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Versus it being 3 unknown people.
Yes, that is correct.
And then you ran the proposition for Maria Howard,
Yes,
and she had a pretty strong supported proposition for being included on that swab as well, right?
yes, the statistic associated with Maria Howard was in our very strong support range.
And having DNA of 2 individuals who were driving a vehicle show up on a steering wheel is not uncommon, correct?
That is correct.
But there were 3 individuals in the mixture, right?
That is correct.
And so everybody else that you had a sample for, including Samantha Josephson, was excluded from that mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's very likely Nathaniel Rowland, Maria Howard, and somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
I'd like to look for you to look over on page 26 at item 63. This is the swabs from the gear shift of the Chevy Impala. This was a mixture of 4, correct?
That is correct.
And under this proposition, it was approximately 390 billion times more likely that Samantha Josephson contributed to the DNA mixture than contributed to the DNA mixture and 3 other people versus it being 4 unidentified people.
It was 390 billion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that were the scenario, yes.
Okay, and 150 billion times more likely to see the scenario involving Nathaniel Rowland.
That is correct.
Maria Howard was only at a 27 times more likely in this scenario if it was her and 2 other unidentified people.
The DNA profile is approximately 27 times more likely if Maria Howard and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So statistically, you can't say that she's not there. She's just considered a weak support.
That is correct.
Okay. You did a proposition for Xavier McFadden, another known sample that you had,
Yes,
and you found that it was 4 times more likely if 4 unrelated people contributed to the mixture versus Xavier McFadden being in that mixture with 3 other people, right?
That it is 4 times more likely to see this DNA profile, if that's the case, yes.
And then you excluded Marcus Williams, Ashamar Williams, and Derod Fleming.
Yes, that is correct.
So there's still one profile that's on the gear shift of this car that we don't know who it belongs to, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Can you look at item 64 for me, please? It's on page 28, it's the next page. The exterior door handle of the rear passenger side. That is a mixture of 3 individuals.
That is correct.
It's approximately 140 quadrillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, the statistic always applies to the DNA profile occurring, so it is 140 quadrillion times more likely to see this profile if that is the case.
Yes, ma'am. You did the same thing for Mr. Rowland. It was 9,100 times more likely to see Nathaniel Rowland in that combination.
That is correct.
Maria Howard, it was approximately 2 times more likely that she would be in that scenario.
It's 2 times more likely to see the DNA profile, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Begging the court's indulgence. Okay, now please look over to item number 72. It is on page. Oh, I believe that's in your June report. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's a swab that was done from the rear passenger seat of the Chevy Impala.
That is correct.
It was presumptive for blood.
Yes, that is correct.
The profile that you developed was a combination of 2 individuals.
Yes,
Nathaniel Rowland is not one of those individuals.
that is correct. He is excluded.
And in fact, outside of Ms. Josephson's profile, you excluded every other individual you had a known sample from.
Yes, that is correct.
So it's Ms. Josephson's profile mixed with somebody that we don't know.
Yes.
And can you look at item 76, please? Swab from the rear driver's side seat of the Chevy Impala. Mr. Rowland is not a contributor in that one either, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now this is going to take you back to the December report. I apologize for skipping around on you. Talking about some of the items that were found over at the Mountain Brook address. I'm going to start with item 104. And that would be on page 32 of your December report. So you did you received a swab from the serrated blade, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Rowland's profile is not on that blade, correct?
That is correct.
And there's a second swab that was turned into you, swabs from the inner edges of handles of camo-colored multi-tool, from the white plastic Family Dollar bag number 2.
Yes, that is correct.
That is a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes.
Samantha Josephson has a strong support probability of being included.
The statistic associated with Samantha Josephson falls in our very strong support range.
Yes, ma'am. And that number that was assigned to that is 2.6 septillion.
That is correct.
And then you did the same setup for Mr. Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals versus it being 3 unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And your result for that one was the DNA profile is approximately 49 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So there's a significant difference, wouldn't you agree, between 2.6 septillion and 49?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, and 49 is, on your verbal scale, you said considered weak.
Yes, that falls in our weak support range.
And you did there was an extra step with the YSTR profile development, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you had testified earlier about, a major contributor and a minor contributor. The major contributor, you said, leaves more DNA. There's more information for that individual's profile that's available. That's why it's considered major.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And the minor is whatever's left?
For a 2-person mixture, it's whatever is left.
Okay. And the major contributor on item 104.2 for the YSTR profile is unidentified male individual B, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. You said the minor contributor you're attributing to Nathaniel Rowland, right?
Yes.
But a little bit farther down, you say the probability of randomly selecting an unrelated male individual having a YSTR profile matching the minor contributor to this mixture is approximately 1 in 59.
Yes, that is correct.
Am I correct in saying that's 1 in every 59 people? Or men, 1 in every 59 men?
No, this is a statistic that is a counting method, and so we have a database that has a specific number of people, and basically each location of DNA is counted how many times it appears in that database, given the total amount of people, and then it is multiplied together through the product rule to get a final probability.
Okay. But you have him listed as a minor contributor, right?
That is correct.
All right. And again, the major is an unidentified male B.
Yes, that is correct.
Can you look at item 107.1, please? That is on page 36. This is a swab from the cuff of a black left-hand glove from inside of a Family Dollar bag, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
This particular swab has a mixture of 4 individuals. Right?
Yes, that is correct.
And again, each human being only has 1 DNA profile, so we're dealing with 4 different people.
Yes, that is correct.
So with this particular sample, you had a combination of Samantha Josephson and 3 unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And when you considered whether or not that scenario was likely, the DNA profile is approximately 2.5 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if it was 4 unknown or unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And you also testified that Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland's profile, it was possible 460,000 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland contributed in that same scenario?
Yes, to see that DNA profile.
And you did that same scenario for Maria Howard?
That is correct.
And hers was approximately 4 times more likely in the Maria Howard plus 3 unknown scenario?
Yes, that is correct.
And then everybody else that you had a known sample for was excluded, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unknown, unidentified person involved in this profile.
Yes, that is correct.
And you testified, I just want to back up for a second. When you get your swabs from serology, Is there a picture or any sort of photograph of where they took the cutting from or anything like that?
I do not look at these pictures, but I think that it is in our protocol. I'm not actually 100% sure,
Okay.
but I know at times they take pictures and other times they do not.
Okay. But the swab for 107.1 is a swab from the cuff of a black left glove, right? Left-handed glove.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, now on that same page, item 108.1. Swab from the bottom crease on exterior of bag from item 108. And item 108 is a Family Dollar bag.
Yes,
Correct?
that is correct.
And this is a mixture of 2 individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
In the scenario number 1, proposition set 1, Samantha Josephson plus an unidentified person contributing to the mixture, right?
Versus 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals.
Yes. And you said it was approximately 3.9 septillion times more likely that this combination was Samantha Josephson and an unknown. 3.9 septillion times more likely than if it was 2 unknowns.
It was 3.9 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if the scenario involving Samantha Josephson occurred rather than if the scenario not including Samantha Josephson occurred.
And then Nathaniel Rowland is excluded.
That is correct.
So this combination on 108.1 is Samantha Josephson plus somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
Item 108.2, swab from the handles of the bag swab from handles of bag from item 108, which is identified as the white plastic Family Dollar bag number 1, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland is not a contributor to this mixture either.
That is correct.
And it's a mixture of 2 people.
Yes, that is correct.
You excluded every single person that you had a known sample for except Samantha Josephson, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So the proposition that it's a combination of Samantha Josephson plus an unknown, unrelated unidentified person versus it being 2 unidentified people, it's more likely, it's 3.5 septillion times more likely that it's Samantha Josephson plus 1 more.
It is 3.5 septillion times more likely to see the DNA profile if scenario 1 with Samantha Josephson is true than if scenario 2 occurred.
Yes, ma'am. And we know that Nathaniel Rowland is not that second person.
That is correct. He is excluded.
Item 108.3.1 on the bottom of that same page. Cuttings from 5 wads of possible paper towels from miscellaneous contents removed from item 108, correct?
That is correct.
A mixture originating from 3 people.
Yes, that is correct.
Proposition 1, Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture. Versus 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributing to that mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's 56 million times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to that mixture versus it being 3 unidentified people.
The DNA profile is approximately 56 million times more likely if that occurs. Yes.
And you did the same scenario with Xavier McFadden, one of your known samples.
Yes.
And your conclusion for that combination was the DNA profile is approximately 32 times more likely if 3 unidentified, unrelated people contributed to the profile versus if it's Xavier McFadden and 2 unidentified people.
Yes, that is correct.
You did the same setup for Nathaniel Rowland.
Yes, that is correct.
And for him, the conclusion was the DNA profile is approximately 22 times more likely if it was 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributing to the profile versus if it was Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified people.
Yes, that is correct.
It's more likely it's somebody else, in layman's terms.
That is correct.
And you were able to, or rule out, I should say, I'm not going to say exclude, but rule out everybody that you had a known sample for, except for Marcus Williams as a possible contributor, correct?
I wouldn't use that wording.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth. You were not able to get a strong support likelihood for any other person that you had a known sample for with this scenario.
For inclusion?
Yes, ma'am.
That is correct.
Okay. And I apologize about, I'm not a scientist. Will you look at 108.3.2, please? Cutting from, it's on page 42, cutting from 1 wad of possible paper towels from miscellaneous contents removed from the bag from item 108, the Family Dollar bag, bag number 1. This is a mixture of 3 people, 3 individuals in the profile, correct?
That is correct.
With the combination or the scenario of Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified individuals versus 3 unidentified individuals, your conclusion was that it is 2.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 2.7 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
And you were in that same scenario for Nathaniel Rowland.
Yes.
And your results for that one were it's approximately 3 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct? Sorry, go ahead.
The DNA profile is approximately 3 times more likely if that is the case, yes.
And that is considered a weak support for inclusion, right?
Yes, the statistic falls in our weak support range.
Even with that weak support, isn't it true there's still a profile in this mixture that you were unable to include, you were not able to include any of the other known profiles to this mixture?
Yes, that is correct.
So there's an unidentified profile in this mixture.
Yes, that is correct.
Item 108.3.4. The swabs from the interior as submitted of glove marked A from the miscellaneous contents removed from the bag from item 108, which again is the Family Dollar bag, bag number 1, right?
That is correct.
Now Mr. Goldberg asked you, when you were explaining, you have a glove like this, sometimes when you get it, in a trash bag or something, you don't know which part is the inside or which part is the outside.
That is correct.
And that's why it's listed as submitted, right?
Yes, that is correct.
But isn't it true that, if this glove was sitting here on the ground and I just picked it up, throw it away, my DNA could get on that glove, right?
Yes, that is possible.
But on the glove that you got the swabs from, there are 3 individuals in the profile, right?
This is for item 108.3.4.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it was interpreted as a mixture originating from 3 individuals.
Bear with me, I lost my place. Begging the court's indulgence. Okay. I apologize for that. I got lost in the report. So 108.3.4. Yes, ma'am. Glove marked A from miscellaneous contents. A mixture of 3 individuals, and under the proposition for glove A, Nathaniel Rowland is excluded as a contributor.
Yes, that is correct.
But there's a mixture of 3 individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
You excluded every other known sample that you had other than the possibility of Samantha Josephson being present, right?
Yes, that is correct.
108.3.5, glove marked B. Again, interior as submitted because y'all don't know, right?
That is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland's excluded.
Yes.
Every other known sample that you have other than Samantha Josephson is excluded.
Yes, that is correct.
But this is a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes.
So it's Samantha Josephson plus somebody that we don't know.
Yes, that is correct.
I want to go back to this glove for just a second. Now, assuming, because we don't know, if somebody has your hand, I ripped it, we'll try that again. If somebody were to put their hand in this glove, I apparently cannot get my hand in this glove. Let's imagine that somebody had their hand inside of a glove, right? You would assume that there's a possibility I'm going to leave my DNA inside of that glove, right?
Yes.
And if I happened to have somebody else's DNA on my hand, and I put my hand inside of that glove, there's a good chance I can leave that person's DNA inside of that glove too, right?
Yes, that is possible.
And that's an example of transfer DNA.
Yes,
The DNA was transferred to me and I transferred it to somebody else.
that is correct.
All right, so can you please look at item 108.3.6, please? This is listed as swabs from the interior as submitted of glove marked C from miscellaneous contents removed from the Family Dollar bag 1, right?
That is correct.
This is a combination of 4 profiles,
Yes,
so 4 different people.
that is correct.
And Samantha Josephson, you had the scenario Samantha Josephson plus 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals versus it being 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals.
That is correct.
And for that scenario, the DNA profile is approximately 2.3 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to that mixture, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's a pretty strong support that her profile is included in that mixture.
Yes,
And you did the same for Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland, correct?
that is correct.
And we have no conclusion on that, right?
That's correct. And the uninformative statistical result was obtained. No conclusion can be made regarding Nathaniel Rowland as a possible contributor to this mixture under the listed propositions.
And Mr. Goldberg asked you if it was possible for, his DNA could be there. Is that possible? You just don't know statistically?
Yes, no conclusions can be made.
Isn't it also true that it's possible his DNA is not there?
Yes, that's possible.
Will you look at item 128.1.1, please? That's on page 48. That's the cuttings from towels from miscellaneous contents removed from the bags of item 128, the black trash bag from the trash can.
That is correct.
And you developed a profile of 2 people being included.
Yes,
Samantha Josephson, in her scenario, Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals. I'm sorry, Samantha Josephson and 1 unrelated individual, right?
That is correct.
Versus 2 unrelated individuals.
Yes.
And it's 3.9 septillion times more likely if the scenario involves Samantha Josephson and that 1 unrelated person.
The DNA profile is approximately 3.9 septillion times more likely if that is the case, yes. Rather than if 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, ma'am. And Nathaniel Rowland, when you put him in that scenario, he's excluded.
That is correct.
Along with everybody else you had known profiles for, correct?
That is correct.
So this combination is Samantha Josephson plus somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
Would you please look at item 128.2? Swabs from the open edge of the black trash bag and handles of 2 interior bags from items 128, which is the black bag that was inside the trash can. This is a mixture of 3 people, correct?
That is correct.
The first scenario you ran included Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated people versus 3 unrelated people, right?
That is correct.
And it was 10 times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated people contributed to this particular profile.
It is 10 times more likely to see this DNA profile if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture rather than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
So her profile is present, it's just not the strongest support. It's a weak support.
There
in this
is-
scenario.
Yes, there is weak support for her possible inclusion.
And you ran the scenario with Maria Howard and 2 unidentified individuals versus it being 3 unidentified individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And for that scenario, it's approximately 12 billion more times likely if the combination was Maria Howard and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture than if it were 3 unknown unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 12 billion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
So Ms. Howard is 12 billion considered a strong support, medium support, or weak support?
This statistic falls in our very strong support range.
And you did the same scenario for Mr. Rowland, correct?
That is correct.
And for Mr. Rowland, when you were looking at him plus the 2 unidentified people versus the 3 unknowns, it was approximately 5 times more likely if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture versus Mr. Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 5 times more likely to see the DNA profile if that is the case.
Yes, ma'am. So it's more likely that it's 3 unknown people.
It is more likely to see this DNA profile if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture rather than if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
Yes, ma'am. I swear we're almost done. Can you look at item 130.1.1, please? Those are cuttings from the left side hem area of the tan shirt that was removed from item 130, which is a Family Dollar bag, bag number 2, correct?
That is correct.
And you were able to develop a profile of 2 individuals, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And the hem's at the bottom of the shirt, right?
From my understanding.
Okay, that's right. You didn't see the parent item. You just got the sample.
Yes, that is correct.
But we have a profile of 2 individuals. So Samantha Josephson was put into the scenario.
Yes.
And when you compared the 2 hypotheses, it was determined that it's approximately 4.1 septillion times more likely that Samantha Josephson and an unidentified, unrelated individual contributed to the mixture than if 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 4.1 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case.
And you put Mr. Rowland's profile in that same scenario.
Yes, that is correct.
And the result that you came to as far as that scenario is that it's approximately 13 times more likely if it were two unidentified, unrelated individuals in this mixture versus if it was Nathaniel Rowland and one unidentified person, correct?
It is 13 times more likely to see this DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
So it's more likely that Mr. Rowland is not a contributor to this particular scenario, this mixture of profiles.
According to the DNA profile, yes.
And can you look at item 130.1.2, please? That's the scraping from the neck area of the tan shirt, correct?
That is correct.
This is another one where it's a mixture of 5.
Not quite. This was a DNA profile that was developed, but due to the complexity of the profile and the inability to determine a number of contributors, no further interpretation will be offered.
I apologize about that, I was looking at the wrong one. But anyway, you never did any further analysis because you couldn't determine how many people's profiles were present. Is that what that breaks down to?
Exactly.
Is it usually the situation when you have something like this, you can't determine how many? Is it typically more than 1?
Yes.
Typically more than 2?
No, that's not necessarily the case. It can be where you suspect that it's a mixture of 2 or anywhere above that.
Okay, but definitely more than 1.
Yes.
Okay. Will you look at item 130.2 for me, please? Those are swabs from the handles of item, that's not what that says. Swabs from the handles of item 130, which is the Family Dollar bag number 2.
That is correct.
On those handles, there's a mixture of 2 individuals.
Yes.
The first scenario, you include Ms. Josephson's profile.
With an unidentified, unrelated individual.
Yes, ma'am. And you compare that to the profile of 2 unidentified, unrelated individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's approximately 1.7 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and an unidentified, unrelated individual contributed to the mixture of that profile versus it being 2 unrelated individuals, correct?
It is 1.7 septillion times more likely to see the DNA profile if that is the case, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And there were no other known profiles, known samples that you have that you could include as that second individual, right?
That is correct.
Would you please look at item 131.1.1.1? That's the cutting from the right cuff of a shirt. I believe Mr. Goldberg showed it to you. I would take it out, but I can't get gloves on. But that was the Nike sweatshirt that he had held up, black with white strings, correct?
From my memory, yes.
So for this particular item, the cutting from the right cuff, I think we might have skipped over it. There were 4 individual profiles identified in this sample, correct?
That is correct.
So you do the scenarios, you include Ms. Josephson's profile with 3 unidentified individuals versus it being 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Ms. Josephson has what you would consider a very strong probability of being present in this particular mixture?
Yes, the statistic associated with Samantha Josephson is in our very strong support range.
You testified that Mr. Rowland had would you consider, a strong likelihood of being involved in this profile that you were able to develop?
The statistic associated with Nathaniel Rowland fell in our very strong support range.
Would it surprise you for somebody's DNA to be on an item of clothing that they owned? if, John owned a shirt, would you expect to see John's DNA on a shirt?
Yes, if he'd worn it,
Okay.
or handled it, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. And then you excluded everybody else that you had a known sample for, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we have 4 profiles. We've got strong support for 2 profiles, Ms. Josephson and Mr. Rowland. So there's 2 unidentified profiles still showing up on this item, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And we don't know who they are.
That is correct.
Item 131.1.1.2. That's a swab from scraping the neck area of the same shirt, correct?
That is correct.
And this is the one I mistakenly was talking about a minute ago. This is the one that has 5 profiles.
That is correct.
Okay, so you could not do any more testing on it.
Yes, that is correct.
But we know there's at least 5.
Yes.
On item 131.1.2.1, cuttings from the left thigh area of the pants. That's a mixture of 3 different DNA profiles, correct?
That is correct.
So you start with Ms. Josephson, you create the scenario, it's Ms. Josephson and 2 unrelated individuals versus it being 3 unrelated individuals, correct?
That is correct.
And for that scenario, it's approximately 3.1 septillion times more likely if Samantha Josephson and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture, correct?
It is 3.1 septillion times more likely to see this DNA profile, if that's the case.
Yes, ma'am. And that's what's considered a very strong support.
Yes, that statistic falls in our very strong support range.
You included Mr. Rowland in that same scenario.
Yes, that is correct.
What would Mr. Rowland's likelihood be classified as?
The statistic associated with Nathaniel Rowland is 55, which falls in our weak support range.
So it's a weak support, you said?
That is correct.
And then you excluded everybody else that you had known samples for.
Yes, that is correct.
But we started out with a mixture of 3 profiles, so there's still 1 person that's unidentified from this mixture, right?
That is correct.
Item 131.2, the swab from the handles on item 131. That's a mixture of 2 individuals, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
You created the scenario including Maria Howard and Maria Howard and 1 unidentified individual versus it being 2 unrelated people.
Yes, that is correct.
And Ms. Howard's result would be what's considered a strong support, correct?
This statistic of 92 billion falls in our very strong support range.
But everybody else you had samples for, including Ms. Josephson, were excluded.
That is correct.
So the second profile is somebody that we don't know.
That is correct.
And those were the handles on item 131, which was the Family Dollar bag, correct?
Yes.
And item 140.1, swabs from scrapings on the interior of the black beanie. You found a profile of 4 individuals.
That is correct.
You did the scenario for Ms. Josephson, and it was 210,000 times more likely if it's Samantha Josephson and 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture than if it's 4 unidentified unrelated individuals contributing, correct?
It is 210,000 times more likely to see this DNA profile if that's the case.
And that's considered a strong support, correct?
Yes, that falls in our strong support range.
And Mr. Rowland, Nathaniel Rowland, also has a strong support range at 11 octillion.
11 octillion falls in our very strong support range.
You would not be surprised to see Nathaniel Rowland's DNA in that beanie if he's worn it before, correct? But we know there's two other profiles on the sample that you have.
Yes, that is correct.
And you were not able to include any other known sample that you've been provided, right?
That is correct.
All right, a few more items. If you go back towards the front of your report to item number 13, just want to touch on a few things. You mentioned testing hair. A number of different hairs were collected and submitted for testing, right?
That is correct.
Did these hairs have roots on them?
If the hair was taken through DNA analysis, then it had a suspected root on it.
So when you received the hair, were you doing a root test, or were you testing for some other type of DNA like blood or touch or something?
When we receive a hair, we look at it under a microscope and determine if there is a possible root, and if there is, we will send it forward to DNA analysis. And a root is just a skin cells from your head.
Okay. So if there's any hair that has testing done, then are you testifying that there was a root present?
I'm testifying that there was an apparent root present.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So if you please look at item 13. That's a hair that was from the right hand of Samantha Josephson.
That is correct.
And you were able to develop a profile off of this item, correct?
That is correct.
And it's a mixture of two individuals.
That is correct.
And Nathaniel Rowland is not one of those individuals.
That is correct.
And you were able to develop, there was no YSTR profile developed, correct?
That is correct.
And that's a hair that was in her hand. It has two profiles on it.
Yes.
Item 16 were the fingernail scrapings. 16.1 was the right hand fingernail scrapings for Ms. Josephson, correct?
That is correct.
Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not under Samantha Josephson's right hand fingernails for the scrapings, correct?
For the STR profile, that is correct.
Yes, ma'am. For 16.2, Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not under Ms. Josephson's fingernails.
That is correct.
For item 17, fingernail clippings from the right hand of Ms. Josephson, Nathaniel Rowland's DNA is not on the fingernail clippings, correct?
That is correct.
You did develop a YSTR profile, though,
That is correct.
but you couldn't determine the number of contributors to that profile,
That is correct.
so you couldn't do anything else with it.
Yes, that's correct.
On item 18, fingernail clippings from the left hand of Samantha Josephson. Mr. Rowland's DNA is not under those fingernails either, is he?
Nathaniel Rowland is excluded as a contributor to the STR profile. That is correct.
Yes, ma'am. And on item 18, you were able to develop a YSTR profile.
Yes, that is correct.
You were able to break it into a major contributor and a minor contributor.
That I was able to determine a major contributor.
And that's unidentified male A.
That is correct.
And with item 18, there were 3 profiles developed, right? For the STR mixture, 3 different profiles?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And you just testified that Nathaniel Rowland's not one of those profiles, correct?
That is correct.
So it would be Samantha Josephson and 2 unknown people.
Yes, that is correct.
And item 19, the swab from the left ankle of Ms. Josephson. There is a profile from Ms. Josephson present on her ankle,
That is correct.
which is to be expected.
Yes.
But there's also DNA that's not attributed to her that's also present.
That is correct.
You were not able to do any further testing as far as the STR testing, correct? I mean, the profile testing.
Yeah, no further interpretations could be offered.
Yes, ma'am. But you were able to develop a partial YSTR,
Yes, that is correct.
and that's a mixture of at least 3 male individuals.
Yes, that is correct.
But we have no other information that was available, and you were unable to do any further testing, correct?
Any further comparisons, that is correct.
And then swabs from the right ankle of Samantha Josephson, item 20. You don't indicate that Mr. Rowland's DNA is on her right ankle either.
That is correct.
Begging the court's indulgence. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Regarding item 104.2, that is the inner handle of the knife that I showed you earlier, is that right?
That is correct.
You testified that you used 2 different methodologies to analyze that item, is that correct?
That is correct.
You used the star mix methodology
Yes.
and the YSTR methodology.
Yes, that is correct.
Using the star mix methodology, there was some level of support for inclusion of the defendant in that profile, is that right?
Yes, to see this DNA profile is approximately 49 times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 2 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 3 unidentified unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
And for the second methodology, the YSTR, there was also some level of support for Mr. Rowland's inclusion, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, if an item were to be swapped, such as a jacket, for example, and a profile was developed from said jacket, and your analysis excluded a person from being part of the profile, okay? Does that mean that that person has never worn the jacket?
No, it does not necessarily mean that.
Does it mean they've never touched the jacket?
No, it does not necessarily mean that.
Does it mean they've never used it in any way whatsoever?
No.
Along those same lines, if I were to give you this jacket, or crime scene investigators, my jacket, and they were to swab it, and it was analyzed by you, would you automatically find my DNA from every swab that's taken from this jacket?
Not necessarily, no.
All right, there were questions about Ms. Josephson's fingernails and the items of evidence relating to her clippings and scrapings, correct?
That is correct.
I'll throw another hypothetical at you. if someone was wearing long sleeves and gloves, and another person tried to scratch them, or hit them, or touch them in some way over those clothes, can you say whether the presence of those long sleeves and gloves would increase or decrease the likelihood of seeing that person's DNA profile under those names?
This scenario would not apply to a universal rule, but one of the things that does inhibit touch DNA is if you're wearing layers, you're less likely to shed your DNA than if you are have your skin exposed. However, multiple possibilities are always should always be accounted for.
Certainly. There's been a lot of big numbers thrown out here today, septillion and octillion being two of them, correct?
That is correct.
And specifically, Ms. Pinnock asked you about item 140, I believe, your item 140. That was the parent item of the black Beanie taken out of the Impala. Correct? I think you did some analysis on 140.1.
Yes, that is correct.
This was the parent item that we talked about earlier, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And regarding your analysis of this item, what was your result again regarding Mr. Rowland's inclusion on that item?
Specifically for item 140.1, the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture originating from 4 individuals. The scenario 1 being Nathaniel Rowland and 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture versus scenario 2 of it being 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributing to the mixture. The result of that comparison is the DNA profile is approximately 11 octillion times more likely if Nathaniel Rowland and 3 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture than if 4 unidentified, unrelated individuals contributed to the mixture.
11 octillion.
That is correct.
How many zeros are there in octillion?
27.
There has been a lot of discussion this afternoon in this courtroom about unrelated, unidentified individuals, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Pinnock referred to them earlier when questioning you as loosely as other people, but we're actually talking about other DNA profiles, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And to that end, can you say whether all of those profiles, all of those unrelated, unidentified individuals, whether they were all left at the same time on an item
No, I cannot tell that.
or in a location?
No.
Could have been left 2 different times, correct?
Yes, that is
Could
correct.
it have been 50 different times?
Yes, that is possible.
1,000 times?
It is possible.
She asked you about, I believe it was 13 different items out of the vehicle, the Impala, and referenced unrelated, unidentified individuals regarding each one of those items. Those unidentified, unrelated individuals, could those profiles have come from any person that's ever come in contact with that vehicle at any time?
Yes, that is possible.
The driver, perhaps?
Yes.
Passenger?
Yes.
Could it be from a mechanic doing work on the car?
Yes, that's possible.
Body shop worker?
Yes.
Even an assembly line manufacturer when the car was originally made?
Yes, that's possible.
She also asked you the same thing in regards to a number of items collected from Mountain Brook in the trash, correct?
Yes.
Would the same be true for almost all of those items regarding clothing, correct? I'm sorry, I'll rephrase the question, I'll restate the question. Is it possible that any person that's ever come in contact with, say, clothing found in those trash bags could have left their DNA profile there?
That is correct.
Or anyone who's ever come in contact with the grocery bags found in that location?
Yes, that is possible.
To include sales clerks,
Yes, that is possible.
manufacturers.
Yes, that's possible.
Thank you, that's all.
Any further cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may step down. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. We will resume at 9:30 on Monday morning. Remember the admonition that you are to not be exposed to any information about the case outside of the courtroom, not to discuss the case with anyone or allow anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, because you are to decide the case solely on what you hear in this courtroom, and it would be unfair to your fellow jurors to deliberate with someone out in the streets, you might say, who have not heard the testimony. Not only unfair to your fellow jurors, but it would be a violation of your oath as jurors, and you don't want to do that. When you return on Monday, juror number 130, I'm appointing you to be the foreperson of the jury. As the foreperson, you take the first seat here in the corner. I believe that's the foreperson seat on the front row. And that'll be the foreperson's seat. It'll be your responsibility to serve from this point forward as a spokesperson for the jury. It'll be your responsibility to preside over the jury deliberations, and it will be your responsibility to write the verdict form representing the unanimous verdict of the jury when we reach that point at the end of the case. So I hope you'll have a good weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.